Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Basketball's done for the summer, so now we wait till October.
Absolutely. And it was announced today the Timberwolves did put out their preseason schedule. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we get going, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching later on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating, or Apple, I should mention too, and tell us what you think of the show. And it really helps us out, and it helps us get to more people. And also, make sure to tell a friend if have a friend who wants to get into the Wolves or loves the Timberwolves. We would love to have them join along. So anyway, let's talk about it. The NBA over-under came out for wins for next season. Obviously, last season, the Timberwolves exceeded expectations by outshooting their preseason prediction. They were predicted 44.5 over under, and they ended with 56 wins. So this year, the Minnesota Timberwolves are projected 52.5 wins. So let's just get straight off the bat. Over under Wolves 52 wins next season.
I historically hate wins and losses, like that sort of stat, because so much can go into it. I'm more of like, where do they place in the conference, like ranking wise? But
right,
if you're gonna tell me that they'll lose 6 games more next year than we did, man, we were historically healthy. Man, I don't know. I'll take the over. I'll take the over,
take the over.
Hometown over.
Okay, yeah, I am going to say I think they got it spot on. I would say around 50 to 52 wins is probably where we're going to be at.
Yeah, turns out they know what they're doing.
Like you were saying, here's the thing. If I were to put money on it, I wouldn't bet the over or the under. That's the thing.
Right.
Because I think they kind of got it spot on this one, 52.5 win. Let's take a look at the rest of the Western Conference. So they have the Thunder at 55.5, the Wolves at 52.5, Nuggets at 52.5 as well. So basically right where we were last season, fighting with the Nuggets for the 2 seed, and really the Thunder as well. Mavericks at 50.5. The Grizzlies, who I think are going to make a huge jump next year, particularly from what they had the year before. Obviously injuries pending, but they are at 47.5. Suns at 46.5. Then you have the Kings at 46.5 as well. Pelicans at 45.5, and the Lakers at 44.5. Any reactions to any of those?
Well, if you're telling me that they have us at the second seed or tied for the second, third seed, then I'm cool. Like, that's right about where I think we'll be. Top 4 seed I think is fair. Even top 5 seed I'd be pretty happy with. You're all in the fight at that point. Like, a couple wins here or there come down to just, bad calls or the ball bouncing one way or another, or, a twisted ankle. So I'm not too worried about that, but I think that's accurate. I mean, if you've got us in the top 3 in the West, man, it's not often that Timberwolves fans have been able to say that coming into a season. So I'll take it every single time.
And I think it's crazy that we're projected to do so well, particularly when the rest of the league is the rest of the Western Conference, I should say, is so elite right now. And it's sounding like they think that the win totals are going to kind of come down a little bit, because the winner of the Western Conference last year was 57 wins. They have the Thunder at 55 wins. And really I think basically every team that made the playoffs proper, like not with the play-in, won at least 49 games, and here they have the play-in teams at around 46, 45. But like you said, a couple bounces here and there can determine a couple games. And like you said, also, it's going to really depend on injury. Obviously, Karl Anthony Towns, a year older. Rudy Gobert a year older, Mike Conley a year older. Obviously, you add into the threshold, you add in a young Rob Dillingham, who we'll talk about in a moment. But it's really like, look at the Pelicans. Like, I think the Pelicans could have been a top 3 seed last season if Zion was healthy and Ingram was healthy and CJ was healthy. So, and you add in there
Memphis, same kind of story.
DeJounte Murray on the Pelicans this year. If these guys can stay healthy, who knows? But I don't know. I kind of like where the NBA over-unders. And one that I noticed, I like that they have the Kings at around a 7 seed, because I don't want them to overvalue DeMar DeRozan. He has not been a factor towards winning on an NBA team for years now. Like, he didn't really help the Bulls that much. He was a great shot maker in the clutch, but didn't really affect winning. So him going to the Kings, I'm glad they didn't overvalue that at 46.5 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time putting like that on a player so much, but I think he's not going to help him too much because they've got a ton of talent at the guard position and the scoring guard position there already. I mean, they've got, Monk, they've got Fox, now they've got DeRozan. I think they still have Herter. So like
for now,
they've got a lot of scoring on the perimeter that, I mean, adding another perimeter scorer, isn't really shoring up a need of theirs. So I mean, sure, talent is good, but like you said, I don't think that's going to move the needle too much for the Kings.
Right, I would agree. And it's interesting. I think the biggest wild card in what I read off there is the Phoenix Suns, because obviously they're coming off a sweep at the hands of the Timberwolves. They still have elite talent, unless that changes here later on in the season. But if they come in the way that they're constructed right now, it's really boom or bust for them. They could either be elite with led by Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. They can even be elite or middle of the road. I don't see them being awful, but it's going to be interesting for them going forward. But yeah, like you said, the Timberwolves, and I think a lot of this has to ride on, as much as you don't want to put it on a 19-year-old rookie, but I think bench play is really where this is going to come out, where it's really going to be decided here, because you have a young Rob Dillingham coming off the bench who can provide some scoring, maybe some Terrence Shannon as well. And what I loved, in kind of rotating into the Terrence Shannon talk or the Rob Dillingham talk, was he was interviewed. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's on the Timberwolves YouTube channel by Michael Grady, and he said that the summer league team really stressed defense. Like, he did. That was pretty much the first thing he said. Like, Michael Grady asked him, "Hey, how did the summer league go?" And he's like, "Yeah, we really stressed defense and we really shut teams down." So I think that that's exactly what Chris Finch is going to want. And I think that's what you saw out of him, because you saw him. He was up contesting every shot. He's probably going to be bullied by bigger offensive players, offensive guards, but I really liked what I saw out of Rob Dillingham, particularly in the last game there.
Yeah, I mean, he is going to be bullied, and he should be. I mean, that's what I would do. That's what any NBA guy is going to do when they see that kid out there. I mean, he's tiny. Yeah, I mean, we gotta focus on defense, especially for these young guys, because they're not, like we talked about earlier. Dillingham has a different skill set, but most of these guys aren't going to see playing time based off their immediate offensive impact. Like, that's just not reality. We've got that under control with Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. So, Dillingham, they're going to add at least something different to our team, like a different athletic personality. Like, they add a different bounce when they're out there, like at times our team can be kind of stagnant swinging the ball. They're both attackers. So like adding that sort of quick twitch athlete and attack mentality is going to go a long ways just for like mixing up our approach. So I'm excited to see them play in the preseason. It's fun to watch guys play against, do well in the G League. It was great to watch Dillingham go off on that last game. because I mean, a lot of those same shots that he hit in that last game, he was shooting in the other ones. They just weren't going in.
Right.
Kind of like early Anthony Edwards, where I was saying when everyone was freaking out about him missing so many shots, I'm like, it's an NBA skill set to be able to get those shots off. Like, be happy that he has that skill set to be able to put up, 20 shots. Who cares if he only hit 8 of them? Like, it's hard to get those shots off, and they were clean looks. They just didn't go in. So you assume they're going to go in time because they always have for Dillingham. So scoring is going to be there. His attention on defense, his hustle, his quick twitch speed, and his passing all stood out, and they're going to give us a little element that we were missing for sure.
Right. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned his passing. He had some great plays. He had a nice behind the back pass for a dunk, had a nice lob up for a dunk for Leonard Miller. I mean, he was just all over the court. I mean, he was now granted, I will say the Orlando Magic, it was the getaway game, so they did have a couple of their top players out. But still, I mean, you like what you see. And in the interview with Michael Grady, he basically said it took me a while to really trust the guys on the G League team. Took me a while to really trust my teammates. And, there's going to be a learning period for him as well with the Timberwolves. That's why great things out of the preseason we might see, because it's going to take a little bit for him to get a feel for the second unit or the guys that he's going to play with. But once he does, he showed in that game, like, give him a couple games. The first couple games could be rough. Who knows? But if you give him a couple games, let him get settled, he might be able to be that scorer off the bench that we need. And some of the other things that I heard from the interview, he seems like a basketball nerd. All he was talking, like Michael Grady asked him, hey, what was the best part about Vegas? Expecting an answer like, oh, I was at the craps table or hanging out with the guys and stuff. He basically said, well, hey, I'm 19, so I didn't really do anything. I just kind of played hoops. For him, it was like an AAU tournament, kind of for him. It's kind of like go ahead.
And that shows off something that we have to understand is, he's an 8th pick, but he's a 19-year-old kid. Like,
right.
to ask a 19-year-old kid to be a meaningful piece on a Western Conference championship caliber team is crazy, like, is asking a lot. So
right.
I think if we get anything productive from him, like I said, even if it's just a change of pace this year, that's awesome. I think even I was excited at, thinking Stephon Marbury light type vibes. I was thinking, I heard somebody say he's got a lot of like Nick Van Exel in him, who was a guy that I loved growing up. So like I was pretty excited, but then I got to realize, maybe we got to tap the brakes a little bit. He's 19. He's still a young boy. He's going to figure it out. So, point guard might not be completely fixed day one, but
right.
I'm excited for, after the All-Star break, him fitting in and finding his niche.
Yeah, and listen to the interview. He's a very soft-spoken kind of guy. I think he'll kind of find his interview NBA personality as he goes on moving forward. But I mean, this guy is well-traveled. He was talking about, he's from North Carolina. That's where he started his basketball career. Then he went all the way to California I believe his junior year at Donda Academy. Then he went all the way across country to Atlanta to play for some elite team out there. And then he goes to Kentucky. So he's probably used to some of the travel that is involved with an NBA season.
Yeah, these kids that are like top high school recruits, they sniff them out at an early age, and they've been traveling. They've been, basically a D2, D1 basketball team for 10 years of their life. Like, it's nothing new to them.
And something interesting that I found, Rob Dillingham was 2 years old when Mike Conley played his first NBA game. 2 and some change. He was about to turn 3 in January. But Mike Conley's first game was early November 2007, and Rob Dillingham was born in 2005. So it's just crazy to think about just the because I believe Conley's he's definitely a top 20 oldest player in the NBA right now, and
I think he's like top 3 or something like that.
I'd have to look up the official number, but just
Yeah.
crazy to think about that these two are going to be on the same team. A kid who was in diapers basically when the last time when Mike Conley started his NBA career is now going to be learning directly from Mike Conley.
Oh, you're right. He's 10th right now.
10th, yeah.
Our own Joe Ingles is a little bit older than him.
When did we become the old team?
I guess now. I mean, yeah, because I don't know who's after 10. I'm not following. It only went to 10 on here, but I mean, Rudy can't be too far off.
That's true.
But that's the way to do it. I think that's what this new NBA is going to have is you're going to have these high-priced young players, and then you're going to have some of these vets that are going to be in here on some really team-friendly deals that just kind of make everything happen. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I was talking about with this new second-tier, luxury tax type, tax apron type thing. Maybe the players that get 8 to 16 million dollars, like those type of veterans looking for their second or third contract, those guys just aren't going to be making that type of money anymore, and they're going to all have to start taking veteran minimum. And who knows? Maybe we'll scoop one of those guys still before the season starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure, because we are going to be a high-profile team this season, which leads us into our next topic, where there are reports that the Minnesota Timberwolves potentially, now nothing is official as of yet, but there are reports that the NBA is considering the Timberwolves for opening night. Obviously, opening night, prime time. The first game will be the Boston Celtics in their ring ceremony. That's pretty standard. But for opening night, and not only that, they are being considered for Christmas Day.
We should be.
We should be, yep.
I mean, when we had Anthony Edwards last year, people were kind of talking about, geez, man, this is supposed to be kind of the face of the league. The NBA is dropping the ball on not promoting him, and they did, and they have dropped the ball on that. Luckily, Adidas picked it up. But we needed to win, like potential isn't there. We needed to actually stack the wins. So making that playoff run is going to go miles for us as a franchise in visibility. So, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that we're now going to be up there because some of the classic, fabled teams are falling off. So it's time for us to move up.
Yeah, and obviously the Knicks always play, even if they're terrible. It's kind of like the Detroit. Now, obviously, the Knicks are good now, but it's kind of like a Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. By the way, quick sidebar: Chris Armstead, he said in an earlier post, our Aussie friend said that the last Minnesota Timberwolves to play for the an Aussie to play for the Timberwolves, and he has the answer. A guy called Mitch Creek played one game for us last season. Pretty sure we signed him to a 10-day contract and released him. So.
I think, and I could be wrong, but I think Mitch Creek might have just retired from Australia, and he's some sort of local hero down there for a long time. I remember the name. I feel like he's kind of got a stylish haircut, white dude, maybe 6'8", power forward type guy. But yeah, I think I just saw maybe through my feed that he just retired or something from Australian basketball.
So what I have here is that he played one game for Minnesota in 2018, 2019, got 12 minutes, scored a big 6 points. So
hey, that's solid.
That a boy Mitch. Hopefully Joe Ingles does more for that. But to pick up on your Christmas Day kind of the Christmas Day point, I mean, that is an honor. Now, obviously, maybe some of the Knicks players are sick of playing on Christmas Day because maybe they want their Christmas Day. But it's basically the biggest day of basketball until you get to the playoffs. Like, the most eyes are in there. Your aunt who hasn't dribbled a basketball in 15 years is watching the game in the living room. I mean, it's not the same. And I almost hate that the NFL is trying to encroach and play games on Christmas Day because I don't know. I'd rather just make Christmas about basketball, Thanksgiving about football,
Right.
Christmas about basketball. And that's
New
now
Year's is
obviously,
about football.
yeah, exactly. Like we don't
College.
need the NFL every single holiday.
Not me. Yeah, I mean, and it's earned and it's beautiful. I mean, a lot of people think that Christmas Day is basically the start of the season, anyways. For most fans. So it's kind of nice to get that honor for sure.
I am going to, and I don't know how my family's going to feel about this. If it's a home game, I'm going to try to go. I would love to be there on Christmas Day. I just feel like that would be tons of fun. So let me ask you this. Obviously, we have no control over the schedule, but what would, if the Wolves were to play a game on Christmas Day, A, give it a time slot. What time slot would you want us in? And B, who would you want to play? Who would be your dream matchup on Christmas?
Give me, for me personally, I would like maybe like a 7 o'clock game or maybe a 9. I like the later games personally, but yeah,
Okay.
give me evening time game. Um, when all the hustle and bustle is kind of just started dying down, maybe, but and then give me OKC. I
Okay.
want to see OKC, and let's keep settling this score. I think it's going to be a bloodbath between us and them all year, and I'm excited to watch it.
Now, what would be great about that, or what I'm going to suggest next, two two mid-level market teams
Yep,
playing against each other, and I think that shows the
in prime
strength
time
of the NBA in prime time, where you don't have to have the Boston's in prime time or the New York. Now,
for
obviously,
the
the New York
Lakers.
team or the Lakers in prime time. I would love that as well. For me, I just think it would be fun to play the Joker on Christmas.
Oh
The
yeah,
Joker on Christmas, a rematch of the Western Conference Finals.
for
You
sure.
can play clips of all the game seven, all the game seven moments over and over, and you could show the whole series and remind people because we'll be what about a quarter into the NBA season. People will forget about the Western Conference Finals. People will be kind of to the in-season tournament will already be over, but remind them of what happened in that game 7 on Christmas Day. I think that would be beautiful.
I'm all for it. As long as we get to play, I'm all for it. Just don't put us up against like the Pistons or something crappy.
I don't think they'd do that. I really don't think they'd do that.
Neither do I.
The worst case scenario, I think, would be an LA Clippers team with like a hurt Kawhi and just James Harden. That would be worst case scenario for me.
Hey, then Anthony Edwards just go off for 50 and mark yourself in everyone's minds as a superstar that we know you are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think we'll put a pin in it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem. That's I wish I could fast forward to October, but let's see what happens this summer. Who knows? Maybe Tim Connolly's got some more fireworks under his belt.
Maybe. And this is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. And before we go, I'm just going to read off quick the preseason schedule so you can get excited. First game, October 4th, away versus the Lakers. October 11th in Philadelphia against the 76ers. Then on the road against the Knicks, away October 16th against the Bulls, and at Target Center October 18th against the Nuggets. And this is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. And as always, go Wolves.